Hello, I'm Mark Lun and I'll be your host for XTV. Today I have with me Sam Baker, CEO and co-founder of the Singapore Real Estate Exchange, in short SRX. Welcome to the show, Sam.
Thank you, Mark, for having me.
Well, before we get to the market, since this is the first installment of XTV, Sam, would you like to deliberate on what SRX is about?
Certainly. Well, SRX is a virtual real estate exchange that consists of the leading real estate agencies in Singapore. It accounts for about 90% of all the transactions. We set up SRX to provide agents and the public with real-time property listings and pricing information, much like you would get from a stock exchange. The major agencies exchange information so that there is a clear understanding of pricing and listings in the market. In addition, the agents in the SRX are integrated with each other via mobile applications. This allows them to buy and sell on behalf of their clients. As a result, real estate transactions are much more efficient, and it's easier for the consumer to find the right home at the right price. We're very fortunate here in Singapore to have the type of transparencies and efficiencies that SRX brings to the real estate market. There's nothing like SRX in the world.
Thank you for that introduction, Sam. Now let's turn to the market. How would you summarize today's market?
I would say that the market is almost at a standstill. Volume is way down both in the private and the HDB resale markets. The government's cooling measures have been very effective at reducing demand. In 2013, there were 6,506 private resale transactions. That's a 47% drop from the 12,278 units sold in 2012. If we look at it from the peak of 17,142 units in 2010, there has been a 62% drop in volume. On the HDB front, there were 18,219 resales in 2013, which is a 19% drop from 2012. That's a 47% decrease from the peak in 2010.
So according to SRX data, what has that done to prices in Singapore?
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we go to srx.com.sg and look at the SRX Property Index, which is a proprietary index that we track prices in both resale, non-landed, and also in HDB.
Okay.
As we see from the index, prices have plateaued, declining a bit, but then they tried to regain some lost ground with a slight increase in price in January.
Oh, we should emphasize that the increase in price was on low volume.
Correct.
Let me interrupt for a moment. Sam,
Yes.
who has access to SRX price index?
Actually, the public does. All you have to do is go to srx.com.sg and go into the resource section, and there you will see the index. Actually, you're going to see 6 indices. We have indices available for private non-landed, private landed, HDB, and sales and rental for all 3 of those categories.
Sam, you are showing us the HDB graph for all types of homes. What if you want to break it down, Sam?
That's correct. You can see the HDB, for example, for 3-room, 4-room, 5-room, and executive. But now let's go back to HDB resale. Here you can see a similar trend for HDB pricing that we saw with private resale. A ramping up, a flattening or a plateauing, and somewhat of a decline.
Prices are softening, but you don't see the same dramatic drop in price as you do in volume.
That's correct. Prices are more stubborn than volume.
Why is that so, Sam?
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we go to srx.com.sg again and take a look at a special graph that we put together that shows the cooling measures and the impact of those cooling measures on prices. And what I will show you is that it is much more difficult to bring down price as opposed to volume. As you can see, there are about 9 rounds of cooling measures, depending on how you count them. If you look at the graph, you can see that despite all these cooling measures, it's been very difficult to pull price down. The reason is that the market is constantly in search of a fundamental price for each home. The market factors in many demand and supply variables and pricing signals that are unavailable to analysts and policymakers. The fundamental price of a home does not change when policymakers introduce measures to stimulate or dampen the market. the price still wants to be where it thinks it should be. What happens is buyers sit out, thinking that prices will drop more. Meanwhile, sellers resist putting homes on the market unless they have to.
But transactions are still occurring, right, Sam?
Of course, there are still people that are not affected by the cooling measures, for example, Singaporeans and other nations that are exempted, like United States, like American citizens. And there's also those people that have to sell. So there still is movement in the market, but there are fewer and fewer transactions that are occurring, and that causes the volume to decrease dramatically. At the same time, price tries to stay resistant to any downward pressure.
Okay, so would you be able to show us where most of these transactions are happening today?
Absolutely. So what we can do is we can go back to srx.com.sg and we can look at a heat map.
And again, the public has access to this?
Yes.
Okay.
The heat map is updated daily as transactions occur. It shows price and volume for both private and HDB. So let's take a look at price for private non-landed. Districts 9 and 10 are still the most expensive districts in Singapore. But it may surprise you if we go over and we look at volume to learn that districts 7 and 19 have the largest number of transactions.
Okay, so to prove that anyone can do this, let me try and see what's happening on the HDB market.
Okay?
Oh wow! I'm surprised to see that Queenstown is not the leader in price, although it is up there. I can see that the leaders are actually in Bukit Merah and Kallang and Whampoa.
Yeah, that's funny because I think a lot of us when we listen to the news or we read the news, we think of the big HDB sales in Queenstown and we immediately think that's the most expensive place. But as it says in the heat map, it's not.
Let me switch it over to the volume.
Okay.
Oh wow! It dramatically changes to Jurong West and Bedok.
Yes, so you can see that being the leader in price doesn't mean that you're the leader in volume.
Interesting. So Sam, where does the market go from now?
Well, I've seen the preliminary numbers for February, and I think what we're going to see is we're going to see a decline or continued decline in volume, and we're going to continue to see price trying to resist the downward pressure that's on it. But we won't know for sure until we release our numbers on Thursday. We'll release HDB then, and then the following Monday we'll release our private non-landed numbers.
Well, we look forward to seeing those numbers. Sam, thank you for being part of today's show.
Thank you for having me.
And that's the latest on the Singapore property market. Please join us again for the next installment of XTV when we analyze the February property numbers for HDB. Thank you for watching and have a good day.